Today on Locked On Rockies. When you watch a series like that for the Colorado Rockies, it's another stark reminder that this team is in desperate need of something new.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 30th day of July in the year 2024. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, and we are also on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind. You can also help the show grow every time you like the videos. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, leaving those comments and all that good stuff, you're really, really helping the show. So, hey, if you can, think about it. Consider it. Would love to hear from you. All right, folks, today on the show, we're going to talk about the Giants' domination of the Rockies and how it just gets me thinking to something we've talked about before. But it's something, again, I think that when we see this, when we see these types of series, when we see how bad the Rockies have been against the Giants, it just, again, makes me feel like the Rockies desperately need a plea for help. Not help, but something, yes, help, but also something new as well. So we're going to talk about that. We'll also talk about the trade deadline and Nick Mears being traded. And just to give a quick little bit of context there with the weird schedule, I know we didn't have an episode yesterday, but this will come out in the morning. If anything has happened with the Rockies after recording this, we will record a second episode and release it tomorrow with the trade deadline if the Rockies do end up moving a bunch of pieces, making a bunch of moves there. If not, we'll just wait for it all to settle down. We'll react to it, that and the game, and have an episode come out on Wednesday if it's just a couple of episodes. So just to give you a little scheduling update there. But folks, before we dive into everything, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB. That's the code. The lowercase part isn't in the code. You just make sure it's lowercase for a first deposit match up to $100. Golly, do I despise watching the Rockies play the New York Giants, the San Francisco Giants. Plain and simple, it is series like that, moments like that, and the entire situation, or the entire series, in which you just feel so dejected. It's those type of series are the ones that really, when you log on to the interwebs as a Rockies fan and you see the Rockies getting clowned on, and you see the Rockies be such a laughing stock to the rest of the baseball world, you can't really argue against it, but it just hurts a little bit more because it's just a plain fact that they're so behind. They're so far behind the rest of the league and other things. And there are teams that have struck out more than the Rockies this year. Only two of them, I still think. I believe it's still the Mariners and I think the White Sox, but I might be even wrong on that. But the point is, outside of a couple of moments yesterday, there's not a single moment of that series where I feel like the Rockies have any sort of control, any sort of moment. I mean, especially, like, you're not going to score 20 runs every time. I understand that. And, following that up, especially on the road for the Rockies, a difficult task. But to fall flat like that, especially when you got to, I mean, that's kind of a game that like the first of that game, for the first game of the series to go that poorly, and then the rest of the series to go as poorly as it did, outside of, like I said, a handful of things in the finale. It just is so, it's such a hard stop. It's like when we're riding the roller coaster with the Rockies, it's like it's like anytime you see the Giants or the Dodgers and they just throw the emergency brake on, And so you just slam forward like, and you and you press up against the wall or the glass, and you make it like a silly face and everything. And man, it's just so frustrating that this happens against division rivals, and it happens so frequently for the Rockies. Again, we talked about this on the episode on Friday, and we talked about this going into it. Like, how do you build it? It's consistency, and literally it's as if, I mean, we all could have saw it coming. A lot of us probably did see it coming, but now 12 losses in a row to the Giants in San Francisco. And not only that, the Rockies struck out 30 times in the doubleheader, a weird doubleheader, by the way. I don't know why it was a nighttime doubleheader. I don't even know. It was weird even for me as a West Coast guy. And then they strike out 11 times on Sunday. That's 41 times the Rockies are striking out over 3 games. That's a massive problem. That is, and the biggest issue I have is I just really don't necessarily see it getting completely better. And we're just gonna have to go through it, and it's just gonna be the profile. But you can't have a profile of an entire offense of swing heavy guys that are that's what it's such. When I'm talking about getting creative, and I was gonna wait on this, but when I get this, it is just I saw I believe it was Evan Lang tweeted this over the weekend. It just, to be totally honest, and to really think, and when you really think about it, it's unacceptable for the Rockies to just have settled with this narrative their entire life, to never really fully have invested or done anything to think about or consider or change playing on the road. I mean, it's we hear cores. It's pitchers. It's the same song and dance, but when is there actually going to be a focus on looking into the anomalies and the weirdness of the Rockies and trying to do something with it? Trying to actually make something different happen instead of it continuing to maintain the status quo. This is again why you criticize and are frustrated with the front office of the Colorado Rockies as a Rockies fan, because what is it going to take? Like I really do want to know. Like, it would be really great to know what Dick Monfort and Bill Schmidt and company have to say after those series. And you can lean on the youth. You can lean on the fact that the Rockies are playing younger guys and that they're a team in progress and blah, 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 blah. That's fine. And I get that's part of it. But to be that far behind, to be that outmatched by a division rival, I actually do wonder. And it's not just this year, and it's not just when it's been the full rebuild or whatever. I mean, the Giants have dominated the Rockies now for over 60 games. Let me see if I can bring up that number and do some quick math from the series there. Okay, so when the Rockies, I believe, did they win the series? They won the series against the Giants, the last series against the Giants in Coors Field. Great. They still lose the regular season series to the Giants 10-3. And in that time, so this was before, I believe, the series ended. So we had one more loss for the Rockies there. And then we had 5 total, because it was 43-16 when the broadcast said was the record for the Rockies over the last 59 games. The Rockies then lost that game. It was 43-17. I'm sorry. The Giants' record is they lost one more time to the Rockies, 43-17. That's the Giants' record against the Rockies over the last 60 games with the 43 wins. Now add that on. That's 47-17. The Giants have been against the Rockies in the last 64 games. 47. That's insane. That's just madness. If I'm doing, I mean, that's nearly winning 75% of the games that they've played over the last years. And that's a division rival, man. So yes, I know it's a work in progress. I get it. But I'd like to see the work in progress here in the second half of the season be a team that's better at not striking out. A team that's that is making strides in the right direction when it comes to striking out. And that falls on the shoulders of every single batter in the lineup for the Rockies. It is not just the young guys. The veteran batters for the Rockies, and that starts with Ryan McMahon, need to be much better at not striking out because it's unacceptable. And I get it's the modern day, but if the Rockies are just believing too much in the big three, and they're leaning too much into one of the main three outcomes, and it's the strikeout. I know they've been hitting the home run ball a lot lately too, but they got to be getting more walks if they're actually going to be doing and buying into the three true outcomes. And that team ain't drawing a lot of walks because they're too busy swinging and missing at everything. I want to elaborate a little bit more on what it means to get creative, because these series make me feel not only frustrated, but like, again, like we're stuck in the mud. Like we're ankle deep in a bog. That's what I want to talk about next here, coming up on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. But before we do that, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com has got you covered if you're on the job site right now. Maybe you're doing plumbing, HVAC, electrical. They got you covered because you can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, well, guess what? You can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and you get to talk to a real person, every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Be part of the show. Go like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what's on your mind in the Locked On Rockies comment section below. And hey, you can also check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. It's free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel, 24/7. Sports streaming right there. Amazon Fire TV as well. SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app has got you covered for your Rockies play-by-play all season long. So I was just kind of talking about being frustrated with the Rockies overall, just looking outmatched to the Giants. 14-40 on the road are the Colorado Rockies this year. And that's really, again, it circles back to those comments that Dick Monfort made at the beginning of the year. Put it, if you're keeping track at home, if you got the tracker going, let me know. We've figured these ideas out. None of these ideas would work. Again, I point at this series. I point at another series in which the Rockies nearly make history, almost tying the amount of times the Rockies have struck out in a doubleheader, I believe. One fewer than the record since at least 1906. For the record. It's not just the Rockies, it was baseball's record. And following it up with an 11 strikeout performance. I'm getting these stats from Thomas Harding's recap there on MLB.com. If you believe that what other people are going to do or try isn't going to work, then what are you doing specifically that is going to work? That is working. Because when I see 14-40 on the road, that's pitiful. And again, I get the context of this Rockies team. And maybe it's on me for overvaluing members of the Colorado Rockies. But I don't think it's all that crazy to believe that, like, the people talking about the athletics of last year, they were they were like young, and they were like, this is basically a AAA team, and this. There's a veteran presence on this team that should be elevating the play of this team, and they have gone through stretches and shown you that there is a higher ceiling for this team. But through the curse of the Rockies, through baseball, through overall that ceiling not being high, whatever it is, it doesn't build up into anything stronger than a one series here, a good week here, nothing maintained over the months period outside of Brenton Doyle's season, which now apparently we got to watch this finger issue that happened, which I know everyone was scared with the trade stuff. I was too. But again, I'm if Dick Mumford and company are so confident in their approach, their philosophy, I want to know more about it. I want to know more about what they believe is working and it is what is going to work versus the ideas that they shot down. Because I'd love to know more about the ideas they shot down. I would love to know more if they turned away people that came up with creative ideas that said, hey, I've noticed this trend about when the Rockies play on the road. But again, it's not. We got it. We know what we're doing. We know how to win. We understand what's going on. Yet they're 14-40 on the road. They're a completely different team there. They've had this weird, there's all this weird stuff about the Rockies, and there's all this weird this, and Coors Field and the altitude, and humidors, and grabbing all the pitchers, and doing all this stuff. But I just want to know, outside of developing shortstops, what can the Rockies safely say that they know as an organization, they know how to develop, handle, figure out XYZ? Because the only times that they have been great as a road team has been when the team has been constructed and there's enough confidence that and enough talent built in there that you're confident that they're at least flirting with the playoffs or have a chance. And the only reason the Rockies ever have a chance at the playoffs is because of them playing well on the road. It's such a huge part of the puzzle. It's such a massive part of the game. And yet the Rockies' approach doesn't seem to be anything outside of whatever their standard baseball operation procedure is. And so I am pleading for the Rockies to do something different. I am pleading for a member of the Rockies organization, if you're not going to go with someone new, someone who does have the ear of Dick Mumford, to start embracing something new, build out the analytics department more, do some. I know I'm pie in the sky right now, but that's where I'm at, because I'm asking for the Rockies to make an adjustment and embrace something different, because I've watched a lot of this product. I've followed a lot of this product. I've seen a lot of Rockies baseball, and the mentality that they say they have, in the words of the owner himself, we don't see it. And I don't know if I'm overreacting to just a historically bad opponent, but it doesn't seem like the team has it very much put together when a division rival has a near 75% win rate against you, home or away, and and then if you go to the home series, a 12-game winning streak in San Francisco, in which in a series that the Rockies set a record that hasn't nearly set a record that hasn't been broken since 1906, not the first record that they've broken from the early 1900s this year. So I'd like to hear more from this team about what they believe and what is working, because I'm not buying a lot of it. I'm sure that the trade deadline offers a position to shake things up, but again, it's not trades I'm looking for. I'm really looking for something outside the box to come in and help figure things out for the Rockies especially the area of playing on the road and figuring out the weirdness of the Coors Field hangover, because I'm tired of that being a legitimate excuse and just being able something we could just throw up and say, well, we know the Rockies historically stink on the road. How is there no one that can crack the code of 30 years worth of evidence and data and pitching and all of the numbers that all the eggheads crunch within the Rockies organization, that they haven't figured out a path to success and something on the road and elaborate on it? Because it's right now, it's just, hey, baseball. That's baseball. Under construction. They get to hide behind that. But I'd like to see I'd like to hear more about the stuff that Monfort has such confidence in with the Rockies. That he turned away all the outside opinions, all the other ideas for the Rockies because they wouldn't work. His words, wouldn't work. Or stuff they've tried in the past. I'd like to know what that is. Because I'm just seeing a series in which the Rockies look about 3 years behind the San Francisco Giants in a season in which the Giants have been fighting for their lives. And yet again, the remedy to their problems, a home series against the Rockies in which they can kick the ever-loving snot out of them, because that's really what they did. But Dick's got it all figured out, I guess. All right, let's talk about the Nick Mears trade. Let's also talk about the trade deadline as well, as that can relate to the creativity. And I guess, I mean, I know I went super cranky there, but I don't know. It's just like, that's how I feel after the Giants. I just feel extra frustrated because I just look at a Giants team and you hear these are they washed, are they cooked, are they this, or that, and then they play the Rockies and they look like they're one of the best teams in baseball every time. And I know that's not the only team that does that, but it's just like, when a division rival owns you that bad, it's just so painful as a fan, at least for me. All right, let's talk about the Nick Mears trade. Let's just kind of keep talking about the Rockies and the trade deadline as well. Coming up here next on Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Prize Picks. Prize Picks, also known as America's #1 spot for daily fantasy sports. Well, you can check it out on all the action there. Baseball, if you're interested. It's not just baseball, but they got all sorts of stuff. So what are you doing on Prize Picks is you're just picking more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. So say it's the Rockies, it's hits, or Brendan Doyle hits if he's playing. Ezekiel Tovar hits. Maybe you're thinking Cal Quantrill strikeouts. I know Ryan Feltner pitched recently, but Ryan Feltner strikeouts, walks, all sorts of stuff. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states and across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So download the Prize Picks app today. That's the Prize Picks app, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Folks, this is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Hey, for your second listen of the day, why don't you go check out Locked On MLB. Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so I kind of ranted and raved there at the beginning, but let's give the Rockies front office props where the props is due. This Nick Mears trade is honestly a smart one, because here's the deal. Nick Mears had some issues. There was some promise, absolutely. But if you can get a top 30, I saw someone tweet this out, and so I apologize. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was, if you can get a top 30 prospect for Nick Mears, you do it. And that's what the Rockies did, getting Bradley Balak and Juanier Herrera in exchange for Nick Mears. And so let's see here. I'm going to go down and let's see. This is from not baseball reference, MLB trade rumors here. But all right. Let's see. Blalock, 23, has a decent chance to pitch at Coors Field this year. He's already on the 40-man roster and made a brief big league debut last month, tossing scoreless inning against San Diego. The 6'2" righty has otherwise worked out of the rotation for Milwaukee's Double-A team in Biloxi. Carries a 4.08 ERA in 75 innings, spanning 16 starts. His 20.2% strikeout rate is below average, but his 8.5% walk percentage is solid. The Brew Crew acquired Blalock from the Red Sox for Luis Urias last summer. He's in his first of 3 option years and could be a back-end starter. Herrera, a 6'3" right-hander, ranked 28th among Milwaukee's prospects at Baseball America. The outlet credits him with the mid-90s fastball and an above-average slider. A subpar changeup could point to a bullpen future. The 20-year-old Venezuelan native has started 9 of 16 outings between 2 A-ball levels this season. He owns a 2.91 ERA with an above-average 27.2% strikeout percentage and an 8.1% walk rate. He'd be eligible for rule draft next offseason if he's not added to the 40-man. Thank you to Anthony Franco of MLB Trade Rumors for summarizing that. Like I said, it was obviously you had control. You could have figured out with Mears, but I think again it was a move that shocked a lot of people. But those are 2 interesting arms, and especially if you can get an arm back that's able to help you get someone that could maybe pitch this year, that's even better. And top 30 prospect, that's the right type of trade. That's getting a good value. I mean, that who knows really what that could pan out to be. You know what I mean? When you're at least in that realm, when you're kind of knocking on the door of an entire organization, 30 is still a pretty high number, sure, but that's still something enough where you raise your eyebrows because you realize how much depth is at certain positions and how much things can change. And when the Rockies can get some strikeout potential guys, that's great. And now for Nick Mears, it seems like he's going to be able to go and work with a Brewers team that's very good at fine tuning bullpen arms, and seems like he'll be able to help himself out. The one thing that we have to give the Rockies grief for here with this is after the trade, we find out Nick Mears has been tipping pitches. Nobody. Come on. Not a single inkling that was happening for him. Control issues aside, still with Nick Mears, but oh man, just duh. What happened? I guess maybe it's hard. Maybe it's harder than I think. Maybe again, this is again me sitting here as I often do, here on the high horse of sports podcast talk, but for months, for a while, he was tipping pitches and there wasn't even a single person picking up on it. And they're all baseball guys. They're all watching. They're all looking. Again, it's just how much are the Rockies paying attention? It's a big question I have. It's something I often ask, because that type of stuff, you're just but on the flip side, it's a good trade. Type of trade the Rocky, again, it's not like, Mears was going to be the game-changing asset here. Wasn't changing a bunch of things for the Rockies this season. The Rockies get things started, and let's hope it's not the last. Let's hope it's something that inactivity at the deadline just can't happen. Can't happen. Rockies got to make some moves. When we will break down the moves if they happen, we'll see what they end up being and what the deadline brings. This will be the morning episode, and like I said, some stuff starts going down we'll hop back on the pod and we'll get a second episode going up. And if not, we'll wait until Wednesday, recapping all the news and all the big stuff. Justin Turner heading to Seattle seems to be one of the latest things as of recording. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen of the day. Like I said, Locked On MLB for your second listen as well. If you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, also on YouTube. Check them out there. Until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.